During my unforgettable journey to the Philippines, I discovered a country like no other. Nestled in the western Pacific Ocean, this archipelago of over 7,000 islands offers a stunning mix of natural beauty, rich culture, and heartfelt hospitality, covering about 300,000 square kilometers. It consists of 3 main landmasses and is home to more than 111 million people who bring the islands to life with their warmth and resilience. What struck me right away was how uniquely isolated the Philippines is, surrounded by water, with no land borders, and yet close to countries like China, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Taiwan. One fascinating and humbling aspect of its geography is that it sits directly on the Pacific earthquake belt, which means the country experiences frequent seismic activity, with about 20 tremors occurring daily beneath the ocean. I even heard stories about a devastating 7 magnitude earthquake that hit Luzon over 3 decades ago. A memory still vivid in the hearts of many. Despite such natural challenges, the spirit of the Filipino people remains strong and full of life. If you're someone who values meaningful travel, history, and connecting with local culture, the Philippines is a place that will leave you inspired long after you return home. On my recent journey to the Philippines, I landed in its bustling capital, Manila, a city filled with contrasts and rich, layered lifestyles that tell countless untold stories. Manila serves as the main gateway into the country, with flights available from nearly every corner of the globe, though travelers from Western nations should be prepared for longer travel times. But today, I won't be talking about the usual tourist routes or city attractions. Instead, I want to share some of the more extraordinary and lesser-known ways of life that I encountered, stories that moved me deeply and reminded me how diverse the human experience can be. In some urban neighborhoods, I witnessed how communities survive by collecting discarded food from trash bins and repurposing it for daily meals, a practice born out of resilience and necessity. I also had the chance to learn about the Bajau people, a seafaring community who live in stilt houses above the water, leading quiet lives disconnected from the noise of the outside world. And perhaps most hauntingly memorable was the visit to a cemetery where families actually live among the tombs, creating homes in the most unexpected of places. These aren't just stories of survival, they're reflections of human strength, adaptability, and the will to find meaning even in the harshest conditions. Visiting the Philippines isn't just a vacation, it's an experience that opens your eyes and your heart in ways you never anticipated. While exploring the Philippines, I was truly captivated by the Bajau people, known as the Sea Gypsies, who have spent generations building a tranquil life on the open sea. Seeking peace, they distanced themselves from the mainland and created floating villages that seem to drift between sky and water. Their bodies have adapted remarkably to ocean life. Some can hold their breath for over 8 minutes. They craft their own diving gear from simple materials and dive with grace and precision. Watching them live in harmony with the sea was a powerful reminder of human adaptability and the beauty of a life lived simply and purposefully. Unfortunately, when you set foot in the Tawi-Tawi region where the Bajau people widely live today, the first thing that will catch your attention in their villages will be the strong odors and piles of plastic waste. Trash and plastic seem to float on the water's surface. People living in shacks above water will naturally produce waste. Whether human waste or plastics and garbage, it's all thrown into the water. The bodies of the Bajau people must have become accustomed to this because they don't get sick and can survive in these waters, where they float amidst the waste. It will be accurate to say that they learn to swim before walking. They live in an environment where even the youngest children are quite proficient swimmers and reside in makeshift houses on the water's surface. With yawning and sallow skin, their education levels are quite low, and their children don't wear any underwear. Living in a semi-naked world, statistically, in the past few years, the Philippines has sadly broken a record as the country that dumps the most plastic into the oceans, surpassing India and China. Today, these seafaring peoples who continue to exist in a cultural context are leaving significant waste in the oceans. In the past, the Bajau used paper waste when buying things from nearby supermarkets. Nowadays, they buy plastic products and spread pollution in their surroundings. Nevertheless, the Bajau people, instead of dealing with the poverty in the city, have wisely dedicated themselves to marine life. The most important thing in their lives is undoubtedly fish and their boats. In the 1990s, the Philippine government built mass housing to assimilate these people into local life. But the Bajau returned to the shores and their unique lives. They live in shacks built on the sea surface, and are largely disconnected from the flow of modern life. However, those wooden shacks they sleep in seem ready to collapse at any moment and inspire no confidence. Children learn to fish instead of going to school. For example, when a child turns 5, they jump from the boat in the middle of the sea and learn to swim. If they fail the test, they'll be eliminated right at the beginning of the life exam. That's why Bajau children don't have the luxury of fearing the sea. They must understand the language of the sea and develop their skills according to marine life. They eat every creature out of the sea without a second thought. Octopus, scorpion, crabs, and marine life are the key to survival for these sea gypsies. Besides, it would be strange to expect them to choose their food when they have made their home in the seas to escape hunger. What worries them in the region they live in today is being unable to find fish. The area is a major earthquake zone, and they may be exposed to a deadly disaster at the most unexpected moment. If a major earthquake occurs in the ocean or a tsunami hits them, their shack houses and themselves could be swept away into oblivion. The Philippines never ceases to surprise you, and not always in ways you'd expect. Beyond the idyllic islands and smiling faces, there are stories that tug at your heart. In parts of the city, many families face such severe poverty that finding food means digging through garbage. It's called pag-pag food, scavenged from fast food waste, reheated or recooked and eaten out of sheer necessity. Thousands survive this way. Bags tossed by fast food giants like McDonald's often contain untouched burgers or fried chicken, a treasure for the hungry. Burgers are especially prized since they're easy to eat. Unlike meat with bones, when I visited one of these dump sites, I saw people light up at the sight of a full box of leftovers. But the joy is fleeting. Beneath it lies the daily struggle for dignity and survival. Talking to those who live this reality, you feel their awareness. They know this life isn't ideal. Yet, pride takes a back seat when survival is at stake. With over 1 billion tons of edible food wasted globally each year, seeing this made me question how our systems work. Why isn't this food redirected to the communities who need it most? The contrast is jarring, and if you've ever taken your meals for granted, witnessing pag-pag will remind you just how fortunate many of us truly are. There is another lifestyle in the country that is very, very interesting. The main reason for this lifestyle, like many others, is economics and poverty relate. Those in the Philippines who cannot afford to rent a house with their families or even find a place for themselves in slum neighborhoods, adopt cemeteries as a new home and live with the dead. You heard it right. They choose the graves of the dead as their place to stay. The population in the country has exploded in recent years, so much so that most of the population has turned public cemeteries into their homes. I can feel that this situation is frightening and hair-raising to each of you. However, those who are unlucky in the Philippines have become accustomed to such a life. This is Manila Cemetery, and it doesn't resemble any cemetery you've ever seen. Here's one washing their clothes on top of a dead person's grave. This guy even opened a grocery store inside the cemetery, a completely tax-free, 100% profitable business. In fact, some have even built illegal floors on top of the tombstones and turned them into 2-story houses. This must really be insane. The only way they can earn a living by living in cemeteries is to earn a few cents by keeping the graves of various families deceased clean. People living in cemeteries are content with having at least a place to sleep and a roof over their heads. And unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a more positive way out for them in the future. On the other hand, there are so many children in the cities of the Philippines that you are amazed to see many children lying on the ground, climbing from here to there, and constantly running around on the side of the road. This situation is especially prevalent in the capital, Manila. There are more than 30,000 children living alone on the streets in the capital. This situation invites various gangs to use children as tools in their business. The presence of so many children in the Philippines, of course, due to the lack of control in families, since children are seen as a source of income, almost every couple has as many children as they can. Some of these children die from hunger and lack of hygiene. Some fall into bad paths, and some take care of their families. Moreover, the increasing poverty mainly stems from uncontrolled population growth, leading to an increase in crime rates. Perhaps the government could impose limits on childbirth for the people of the Philippines. For instance, thousands of children in the country have never attended school in their lives. Many of them have either ended up in prison or have been eliminated by the police due to reasons such as murder and theft. The state authorities cannot solve these problems caused by the excessive population through civilized means, regardless of age and gender. Many people, especially children, disappear without a trace. In child prisons, they stay in collective cells, and life there is much harder than outside. When you look into their eyes, you can't see any excitement or hope about their lives. If you visit Manila prison in the capital, you may have the chance to observe the prisoners and even interview them. Children and young people who end up in prison in the Philippines don't even have a bed. People sleep side by side on cardboard, they lay on the ground and live together. What's worse is that there's nowhere to escape, and you have to protect yourself against other criminals in the cell, because none of them are trustworthy, and they can rob you or harm you. In fact, during every inspection, guards find many sharp objects, phones, and various crime materials from many people. Prison life in the Philippines is so inadequate that the state can't even provide majority meals for prisoners. Prisoners draw water from wells in prisons and wash their clothes by hand. Just by considering prison life, we can predict that life in South America and Southeast Asian countries is one of the toughest lives in the world. Furthermore, gang crimes in the Philippines have also increased significantly in recent years. If you mingle with the local community there, you may suddenly find yourself in the palm of a gang's hand. Gangs in the Philippines use the people they corner as pawns and benefit from them. Crime rates in the country are so high that the state cannot prevent crystal meth sales, and the gangs are getting stronger. Of course, in a country where poverty reaches its peak and hopes diminish, women are also being dragged into an unwanted life. While exploring the Philippines, you may see many women working as prostitutes and trying to meet men to get money from them. Due to the lack of hygiene concept in most parts of the country, the world's most prevalent AIDS culture is spreading in countries like Thailand, Vietnam, and the Philippines after Africa. If you take a stroll through the slum neighborhoods entirely on land in the capital city of Manila, you can see that both the houses and shops are pale and worn out, and people are struggling with poverty. For example, many details in the surroundings give the impression of clutter and disorder. People's belongings are scattered everywhere in the alleys, and the surroundings look quite dirty. The grey tones of the sky merge with the coffee tones in the shacks and create the unique atmosphere of the Philippines. When you start encountering people a little more as you walk around, you notice a detail about them. In a country where more than 110 million people earn less than $5 a day, people are quite plump and meaty. This may be because they eat anything that comes their way. People smile and feel happy as they buy something from street vendors at roadside stalls. Eating is one of the most significant things that makes life happy in the Philippines. Especially children rush to any cheap food they see. Moreover, since the weather is humid and hot most of the year, you can often see people wandering around in a simple tank top. Underneath, they usually wear shorts-like clothes. When you see them, you can understand that, like in any other South Asian country, Filipinos are generally dark-skinned, brown, and have slanted eyes. You can come across people selling vegetables and fruits on the roadside, and in alleys at almost any hour of the day. The supermarket and shopping mall culture is not widespread in the slums of the Philippines, and people get their needs from roadside vendors. As you continue traveling on the city line in the country, on another day, you notice the vehicles being used. Like in other Asian countries, simple means of transportation have been developed in the Philippines. The high population density and the majority of poverty have led people to use motorcycle vehicles. I must say that local interaction among people in the Philippines is quite strong. In countries where income is low, people live in need of each other and need to maintain good relations. In summary, the Philippines harbors much more than just tourist areas, and the lives of the communities there are truly challenging. Living in a small area with a dense population has brought poverty and crime rates to the peak. My journey to the Philippines was one of the most memorable experiences I've ever had. From the moment I arrived, I was struck by the country's natural beauty: emerald rice terraces, postcard-perfect beaches, and breathtaking sunsets over crystal-clear waters. I'll never forget sailing through the lagoons of El Nido or standing in awe beneath the chocolate hills of Bohol. But beyond the scenery, what touched me most was the warmth of the Filipino people. Their smiles were genuine, their hospitality heartfelt, and their stories full of resilience and pride. I was invited into homes, treated like family, and reminded of the simple joys of life. And then there was the food. Oh, the food, from freshly grilled seafood on the beach to rich, savory adobo and sweet halo on a hot afternoon. Every bite told a story. Local markets buzzed with color and flavor, offering tastes I had never tried before. This trip didn't just show me a beautiful country, it opened my heart to a culture that values connection, joy, and strength in everyday life. If you're looking for a destination that feeds the soul, the Philippines will stay with you long after you've returned home. If you enjoyed this video, we'd truly appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. Please keep in mind, this is not a complete picture of the Philippines. The country also has many safe, vibrant, and prosperous regions. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Until then, take care and goodbye.